This is Thank You Mama, weekly lessons from mothers all around the world. Hello and welcome to Thank You Mama. My name is Anna Teider. My guest today is Thekla Wilkening. Thekla is originally from Germany. She is a CEO and a business consultant, and she is specialized in sustainability. I'm very excited about our conversation. Welcome, Thekla. Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Very happy to be here.
Happy to have you here. So Thekla founded a company when she was 25. It was called Categorical, or in English, the addresser, I would say, which was Germany's first fashion renting business. And she ran this business successfully for the next 6 years. In the meantime, she co-authored a book called Bio Pizza Dilema. We'll talk about that, a book about sustainability. And she is currently the CEO of Cool Circles Consulting, where she consults new companies and existing companies on sustainability. Wow, let's talk about this, Thekla. Tell me about how did all of this happen?
Well, it actually started quite a long time ago when I was in teenage years because I really love fashion, but I realized back then already that on the one side, the industry was kind of, I would say, weird for me back then because everything was so cheap, and I couldn't really comprehend why it was so cheap, because making clothing myself was so much effort and it cost so much money, all the material, and so that was like, I realized there's a disbalance that I don't understand. And on the other hand, I didn't really understand why I always had to buy clothing, even if I just wanted to wear it once. And so these were like two things that I figured I want to find solutions for. And so I just started to, after school, in Germany, we have this thing called Berufsausbildung, where you can also go to schools, and it's not like university, but a little more concrete and a little more hands-on. And so I could learn how like fashion is really produced, how you sew things, how you plan things, the whole supply chain. And it was super interesting for me to learn everything because I wanted to change something. And I strongly believe that if you want to change something, first of all, you have to know how the business works at the moment. And so it sometimes sounds like I did quite a lot, but it's actually a very, very straightforward business path that I went along.
But Thekla, I read that you have a bachelor in engineering, but specialized in the clothing industry. I found that fascinating. Because normally we connect with clothing, design and stuff like this. But it's interesting that there's something like a bachelor in engineering for the clothing industry.
Yeah, wow. That you're probably the first person who ever also notices this. Because I also think so, right. It was like that was the second step in my education then after school. I went to university in Hamburg, to do this engineering, because it was also the approach to really understand how everything is going on. And textiles, I think people always think as fashion as such a glamorous thing, which is only about fashion and trends and art, which is really important, and I think which is what makes it fascinating, obviously. But right behind it, it is basically a product that is built and that is sold and that is developed. And so it is actually what engineers do, just on a level that is very unusual because it doesn't seem so complex at first, but it can become very complex. So I really enjoyed it, and I wouldn't have wanted to study it in any other way.
So how did you get to found Categorical? How did that happen?
Yeah, that was in my second semester at the university. And I had a friend from school, Paula, and we were still hanging out. And like I already mentioned, I was a bit irritated that I always have to buy things. I mean, we started buying secondhand and flea markets when we were very young too, but I always had the feeling that it's weird that I have everything at home in my closet even if I don't want it, and then I have the chance to sell it or to donate it. But there is no other way of using it except for lending it to friends or something, which we really, 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 really did a lot. Paula and me, we had this joke, like when we lived together, that our that our floor was like our closet because there were clothes everywhere and we were just sharing them. And then, but with getting older and going to university and also having other friends that were already working, it seemed so much more difficult to have this organic sharing under friends or in your community. And especially even if you think about that, not everyone has the same sizes. And so we thought it would be so cool if there was a place where there were clothes that you could just rent and give back. And and this was like a very simple idea. And so we just thought, let's just do it. And we were always very brave in all the years and little crazy also. And so we just took all the clothing that we had, which we didn't wear every day, and asked friends who had a store with books, which they didn't use that much. They had 2 stores and the one store was always closed because they couldn't cope with both, basically, you know. And so they were like, yeah, it would be really cool if you would just put your clothes in the store and then the people could see the books too. And so it was like sharing economy in the sharing economy, basically, which was really sweet. Yeah, and so we just started as an experiment and it grew into a business then in the following years.
Did you start renting? I read a lot in America. It's very popular. The companies like that rent designer clothing for a membership.
Yeah, no, not really. So yeah, we saw the American super business, which was growing like parallelly. But we were more interested really in this little playful swapping system, basically.
Okay.
And I also think that the German customers are a little more casual in their style, and there is not such a mix the match. I mean, we do see like with secondhand, it gets a little more that people buy secondhand clothes from luxury brands, but we have a stronger gap between people wearing fashion, like normal fashion, they just buy somewhere, and luxury, and it doesn't really blend into each other. So it's not so interesting. We don't have, you know, if you go into luxury in Germany, you would just rent it out to other people who usually buy luxury, because most of the clients we had were afraid, you know, to wear something so expensive. They maybe would break it or it would get dirty or something stained. So it wasn't so interesting for us at that point because, yeah, basically we would have rented out luxury clothing to people who could afford buying it. And that is not that interesting. Whereas in America, I think those are people rent it who want to wear it for work and who have this idea of themselves to wear luxury clothing. And it's more interesting, I think. You have a more interesting peer group.
It's very, very fascinating thinking about it, the cultural differences. You know, Americans do tend to want to project something, an idea of themselves, and go as far as necessary, meaning leasing cars that they can't afford, or renting or buying clothes they can't afford. And this is it's interesting. It's a country of debt, you know, people go into debt too.
Yeah.
And that's what doesn't exist necessarily in Germany or in Europe. I think people are much more dealing with what they can afford.
Yeah.
Thekla, I have a big question apropos that. So I read that ginormous text about one of the successful companies in America, and these are thousands of pieces a day that come in and go out. I think they send them to customers. And they also talk about sustainability and how, you know, these people are not buying and throwing away, but wearing. But then I was shocked to read that they have their own dry cleaning service, and that every piece that comes back in gets dry cleaned, and that they are dry cleaning like thousands of pieces a day. And I was like, how is that sustainable? Can that be sustainable?
Yeah, totally with you. I mean, it's a massive scale.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm totally with you that in general, like on 2 sides, first of all, the chemicals used for the dry cleaning, and second of all, the workers working there who have loads of workload to achieve in little time, because obviously if the pieces are hanging in the dry cleaning part, then they cannot be rented out. So there's a lot of pressure on doing the processes very quickly. And I'm very sure that it's very difficult at the times. And this is basically also why we stop with our online business for Kleiderei and we only have like local stores, because the times are running so fast. And I think at every point it is very difficult for every sustainable company, also for fashion brands that are sustainable, not to roll into this business of it has to be so fast, it has to be so cheap. It is very difficult. And I also see many sustainable brands that have a certain scale that, send out lots of newsletters with sales and want people to buy more and buy more, where you can also say this is not sustainable anymore too. So there is a big problem with scaling up in the way that we process at the moment business, because there's not a lot of alternative thinking. Yeah, you know what I mean? It's there's the pressure is so high to succeed and to be as quick as the conventional brands. So in the end, I think you always have to lose some of your ambition, unfortunately, like too much dry cleaning or too many sales, or just making the people jump in as fast as in the conventional business.
Let's talk about the Bio Pizza Dilemma. Tell me about the book.
Yeah, our book I wrote it with Professor Robin Haring, which is my boyfriend too. And we always sat at home discussing. It's a great thing that we come from what I just talked about, the problems to the book, because it's basically what the book tries to solve. We try to give a new approach to sustainability, because I always told him, and he's a professor, so he can think all these consequences, and he's a professor in public health. So he also knows this gap between what we want to do and what we do. So this attitude behavior gap is like the word. And it's the same in health, like quit smoking or quit eating too much sweets. And the same thing with sustainability. Yeah, change your life or also change your business towards more sustainability. So we discussed the topic a lot, and we found that we need a different approach, and we need a wider approach than just do less and buy organic and fair. And so the book delivers also behind, obviously, what we need to know, because I always, like I said, think knowledge is very important to understand. So we have many chapters about what's like the basics. And then we have 30 chapters in which we discuss different approaches to sustainability, because I strongly believe that every one of us has a different part in their life where they can achieve impact. Let me give you an example, which I think is always easy to see. I mean, if you have a job that you really hate, then it's really hard to live a sustainable life, because you will always try to, in German, it's compensate, the hours that you spend being unhappy at work. And like, this is a chapter we have because people don't talk about this in general, but you spend there 8, 9, 10 hours in the office. If you hate it, obviously you will do some kind of consumption at the evening, weekends, or just work for your holidays. And this basically is not a sustainable life. So there's something else you have to change before you start only buying organic food, because you will always have the same problem in the end. And I think it is so important that we stop talking about that it's just buying decisions. It's so much more in the lifestyle that has to do with a real sustainable life.
I want to ask you quickly before we jump into talking about Mama. What makes me nervous lately is how quick businesses are, as they always are, to jump on the wagon and adopt this lingo of green and sustainable and non-toxic and things.
Yeah.
And I'm very nervous that it's just a pretense play, that just by labeling and pretending. When I was researching toxic cosmetics. One of the people I interviewed told me a very interesting thing. He said, it's not about what's not in there, it's about what is in there. Because very often they're like, no parabens, no something. And you think, oh, yeah, it's natural. But you then don't read and see that it's actually absolutely not natural and non-toxic. So I'm getting nervous that, they're labeling, I see it with H&M, and they're like conscious line, and we are recycling. But we know when you start researching, they're not really. Is that a solution? How do we not get fooled? Is the only solution just not buying stuff?
I'm totally with you. I think that it is really dangerous. I mean, we call it greenwashing, and it also tends to be lying at some places. And it really confuses the people, because I do think we all have a very sensitive intuition to if it makes sense that there's organic products for 3 or 4 euros, because it can't be. And if companies tell you, yeah, it's possible, then you're very confused and you start to disbelieve in your own intuition. And I think getting back to this intuition is the most important thing. It's more important than really to get if the company is right or not, because we will actually never really find out. Because they are so smart and, like you said, declining what is in the what's not in the product instead of what's in the product, or just keeping supply chains secret and, beating around the bush all the time, basically. And so I think the most important thing, and this is really what we try to work out in our book, is get back to yourself, and not yourself as a consumer with a credit card to make good decisions, but start with yourself and try to power this intuition that you have and take it from there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. You started when you talked about when you were younger, and you were like, "What? How is it possible that this dress is only, I don't know, 10 euro?" When if you try making it yourself very well, how much the material costs and how much time is invested in it. I'm still surprised and shocked about what things cost, and I'm very sad reading how fashion industry, especially, I think I read somewhere only 20% of what's produced gets sold, actually, and the rest just gets burned. That's when you think about it, how many tons of clothing from these fast fashion outlets, how many tons of clothing just gets burned every year because they just overproduce. It's shocking. That information for me was when I was like, I'm not buying in these places anymore. I don't want to support that anymore. But anyway, let's talk about Mama Heidrun. Tell me about her.
Yeah, it's really cool because she really taught me from very early how to worship things and to take care. I really grew up in a place where we tried to do things right, basically, and we tried to care for things in the right way, and it was a very conscious environment, Mm-hmm. I always think about this time when I was like 14, and I was really sure I really need pink lip gloss, and I need all these shiny, crazy things that you can buy in the drugstore, and my poor mom, she obviously had to buy it because I don't know, I wouldn't be happy otherwise, because I really believed all this stuff. And she was always very straight with good products, and just what you really need. And she still looked fabulous. I had to go through this time, and she had to go through it with me. And now when people tell me like about their kids going crazy on pink microplastic stuff, and I say, okay, I think they're going to come back. Mm-hmm. They will come back. So I came back too. And basically, she really taught me about this.
What is her story? She's German. She grew up in Germany.
She grew up in the countryside, and she moved to the city of Berlin when she was young to study at the film university, which was a very bold move back then. And I think that it was very good for her. And she was always very bold. So with my dad, and all the times when it didn't work out that good, I always experienced a very bold woman. Yeah, that was really cool because I think I really learned from her that too. And yeah, then when she got us, me and my brother, then she started to develop exhibitions for kids programs. So we have like some kids programs in Germany that are very famous. And yeah, and she developed exhibitions to this, which was also very cool because I actually spent my whole childhood in museums, and it was really cool. And she's like a workaholic. So she loves to work.
Does she still work?
I think she will work as long as she can, like forever. She will find something to do.
Does she still work at museums?
Now she works for kids' TV programs now.
Oh, cool. Did she get divorced?
Now my dad died at some time when I was very young.
I'm very sorry.
It was very hard times.
Now I understand. I thought hard times are just quarrels, but those were really hard times. Yeah, I understand. Okay, so let's jump into her lessons. And you already mentioned a few. I just wrote bold woman, and that you've learned that from her.
Yeah, I mean, it's really something special in the times to have these, like, the feminist women at home, basically. Mm-hmm. So I think this is like the main point. The main point is really like to be bold, that women can do things on their own. Also, women don't have to stay in one place. So we also moved at some point from Berlin to Cologne, which is also, I mean, like now I think still crazy. I mean, we were both very young, and she just moved with 2 kids to like 600 kilometers away, which is like, I mean, if I imagine my friends doing this now, I really think this would still be a very bold and crazy move. Like, no family, nobody there, but it was for the work, and she didn't have to, but she wanted to. And sometimes I really think, okay, I just start to get what a big step this was.
It's so funny because I'm betting you all the listeners from the USA are like, what? That's a big step, moving from one city to the other, because they move every few years. They just move for a new job or...
Yeah.
It's funny how we in Europe, we do not move. We just stay put where we are, in contrary to Americans.
I think really it's so interesting, the cultural difference. And yeah, what you think is normal. Because in Germany, it's not. I have so many friends who really never move. Never. Ever have they moved for nothing. It's for them, it's obvious their new job has to be in their new city, and they study what the university in their city offers. Like sometimes they think about going like half an hour to and fro, like, to the city, but they don't move there. So yeah, okay, but then let me tell you, in Germany, it is a bold move, and people think you're crazy if you leave everyone behind and say, okay, we have a telephone, I can call you, we can visit us, and everyone's like, nah, it's basically like you're leaving. Okay. So this was like, it was being conscious about basically everything. It was about conscious how you behave, how you talk. And it's not only my mom, but our whole family. It's in Germany also a very, very famous principle is Immanuel Kant's Categorical Imperative. And in America, I think is like, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. So this is basically something I really grew up with very high moral standards, and always thinking about, like, if everybody did it this way, would it still be okay? And I'm very thankful for this, because I think it's something that is very hard to learn later on, and it's very appreciated a lot that we learned it when we were kids. And I also see it with my brother. I think he's really fantastic too. So it's really we had a good upbringing.
But you also wrote to me that she actually taught you how to sew clothing, how to make and this is where your passion for fashion and later your whole profession came from.
That's right. Actually, it's my mom's fault. Yeah, she at some point when I was lost in puberty, she said, okay, like, something that always helps is to make something with your own hands. And then she gave me a sewing machine, and she showed me how to do like a straight seam, actually. And and then she let me go, and I just started. My first dresses were basically just like 2 pieces of cloth cut, put them over each other. And then I kind of drew a body line, how I thought I looked, something, or I traced it from another shirt or something. And then I just sew like 2 seams, and it was a dress. I called it a dress. And that was like, yeah. And she really started telling me. And even with like, and I also with her having like only buy good stuff, not a lot, and like to really just see the difference and thing. And she loves clothing too, and yes, she basically made me go this way, and she always supported me. She always thought it was good, and she never thought like fashion is superficial, which many people like do. I think she always knew I will do the best of it from it and find my way.
Tell me about the beautiful three that I'm finding at the bottom of the lessons, which is subtlety, sensitivity, and patience.
Exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, what was really important in our childhood was to be careful with each other. I mean, I was a puberty girl. I did have my puberty moments, really. And my brother's younger than me, so he probably thought, "Oh my God, I will never have a girlfriend." They're all that crazy. But I really asked her sometimes also now if there were like rough times for her. And she always says no, and I think and it's also as I remember it, but I mean, I could be that I'm just trying to tell myself that I wasn't that bad. In reality, I was, but she says no, it was really okay. And I think it was really because we had a patient way, and she taught us to be patient and to have patience with ourselves and with other people. You know, not to get fed up that quickly. Mm-hmm. And we never talked bad about other people. You know, I know some of my friends she didn't really, really like. Then she said, okay, perhaps we could skip them for dinner or something. She thought I had crazy friends or something, just like, or just go and visit them, you know. Mm-hmm. But she was never mean. And it was always like, okay, people are the way they are. They will have some reason why they are like this. And I think that's something I really learned, and yeah, it goes hand in hand with a certain sensitivity for not only like fine arts and like fashion and good products, but also for people. And we talked a lot about why people are the way, or what could have hurt them, or what could have moved them. And there was a lot of space at our place for topics like this, and I think that was very, very good. And I also felt very much seen and heard as a very young person because of this. You know, after school, I would come like into her working room and would tell her like about what happened and so. And she was like a therapist, not that much, but at least she listened, and we talked about what was going on. You know, and there was like an ear, a sensitive ear for topics like this. That was very good. Yeah, and I try to give this to my son too, and to tell him there's always like another side on the coin, and you know, it's not always that easy as you see it. And yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to share as her lessons?
No, I don't. I think that's basic. That's a big thing.
But then let's jump into the tricky question, which was there anything you wish she taught you? Anything important that you had to learn yourself?
Yeah, totally. It goes on till today, and it's the point where you stop working. Because like she would never stop working. She's working so much. And I really had to learn this on my own, to stop working at some point. And I don't know how she does it, but she does it for quite a long time now. But I think if I had done it my tempo, I would have run out of any power up to now. So I had to learn for myself that I need weekends and that I need evenings for me. And my parents both were not very good and not like doing everything for the job. I mean, it's also in Germany from this boomer generation, it is not untypical. So many of them, you know, with the chance like from the parents and their very old life models too, I can move to other cities to study, you know, also nach der Wende, and everything was open and people could move. And so this generation, I think, I mean, it was like a great playground, and that they just grew up picking all the fruits, you know, and working for it very hard. And there was a lot. I mean, I understand why they are like this. My brother and me were always like, okay, we will not end up like this. Not everything for a job. And It's very interesting if this is like the first maxim in your life is not to focus your life on your job, which makes it especially weird because also by trying to find a job that doesn't make your life focus on it, it's also that we are very focused on this job thing. You know what I mean? Like it's like running away from it and they're running there. So yeah, I think this is basically the topic of my family and also of my mom, and not solely of our family, but yeah, I think it would have been good if we had been more. I try to teach my kid that at some point it's okay and that you need power for yourself, you know, you have to take a break, and it's good to know your limits. And this is something I had to learn for myself. Luckily, not the very, very hard way. I think I was already a little sensitive for this, seeing my parents growing up. I mean, I have friends who really have the hard way, who have experienced burnouts or depressions because they haven't learned to take care of themselves. Yeah, but I think it's a topic that is really not only special for my mom, but for many kids in my age to their parents, because taking care of themselves was not like the major thing for the generation.
No. And I'm learning that through these interviews now. Thekla, thank you so much. Let's recap. So as lessons you learned from her, I have being a bold woman, and that women can do what they want. I have written down, make something with your hands. That for me sounds like an important lesson. And for you concretely, this was making clothing, which turned into your profession. I love it that you say she taught you to value things and to take care of them, which leads to this whole topic of sustainability, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
And then I wrote down being conscious about everything, about being the way you live, about your friends, about how you behave towards other people. I wrote down high moral standards. I also wrote down she supported you and you felt seen and heard, which is very important. And then something she did not teach you, as we just spoke about, is taking care of yourself and knowing your limits and not working too much.
Yes.
Is that it? Did I miss something?
No, that's perfect.
Great.
That's really perfect. Yeah.
Thekla, thank you so much for being my guest.
Thank you for having me. It was a great talk.
It was a lot of fun. If you enjoy Thank You Mama and want to help it grow, please take the 2 seconds to leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. It really helps. If you'd like to get in touch, you can send me a mail at info@thankyoumama.net. You can also find me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter under Anna Teider. That's Tajder. This was Thank You Mama. Come back next week, subscribe, and tell your friends.